Good evening. Welcome again to our program, Women to Women. I'm Carol Paz, your hostess, and as always, I have a familiar face that you've seen before, but I'm not going to introduce her yet. I'd like to thank our sponsors for this first half, Villa Basque Deli and Cafe, home of Pete's famous and delicious Basque chorizo. If you haven't tasted it, come on in. And I'd also like to thank Carpa Nevada, who is the importer of these fine Portuguese extra virgin olive oils, the aged balsamic vinegar, and the international health teas right here in Villa Basque. So let's welcome our guest as we turn to Liz Andrews Booth. Liz, thank you again for being with us.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
You know, Liz, is always a treat. As the president of the Downtown Business Association, I know that before we get into tonight's topic, which does not have to do with downtown business, there might be some events out there in the future that you'd like to just remind us about that's coming up. Anything that you want to tell us?
Well, we do have the National Night Out with the Sheriff's Department in July. This might show afterwards, but there's the Christmas tree lighting and, of course, our monthly wine walk. Yes. And so and then the 4th annual Legends of the West next June. So,
all right, Liz is a dynamic leader down in downtown Carson City, and she's done some beautiful events. And if you've never participated, keep watching on the carsonnow.org or here on Women to Women. Tonight, we're getting into a topic that is probably something new for many families and many individuals out there. It's called the post-traumatic stress disorder. And Liz has graciously consented to come on and to share with us. It's a situation that she has dealt with, and it may be a situation that many of us out there think that we have dealt with, but we have to keep in mind that this is a disorder. It is something that is severe. It is something more than just a daily stress problem. It's something more than an event. This has to be a traumatic event. And I want to thank Liz personally on the air for coming to us and opening this kind of up for a discussion. We know through the news and through the media that our veterans, men and women who come home from the wars, and particularly after the Vietnam War and into the Persian Gulf War, as well as into the Afghani War and the Iraqi War, that we have, such trauma. But we forget that it also exists in other events besides war. So, Liz, help us to understand, okay, with post-traumatic stress disorder, from what has been your involvement with it? How does it touch you or has touched you personally? And why has it been called post-traumatic stress disorder in your situation?
Okay, well, basically, post-traumatic stress disorder, or they also call it post-traumatic stress syndrome, is basically an emotional reaction to a traumatic event that's happened in your life. Okay. First, we're usually traumatized when we're children, and that starts to take effect, putting different influences on our daily lives and how we deal with things.
So you're saying this can start as early as childhood.
Oh, yes.
And carry through months, years, even into adulthood.
If it's not taken care of and identified and released,
right,
that is the key to solving this. But to raise the awareness, it is a debilitating disorder, I would say, because it causes alcoholism, domestic violence. It takes care of it. It starts a lot of isms. So. It needs to be addressed, and there needs to be awareness out there for it, and validated that it is a true happening in your life.
Are there symptoms that not only you felt that could be classified as traumatic, but are there, I guess what I'm trying to get at, some of us can go through a traumatic experience and not have the same resulting consequences. You and I could go through a very similar accident, illness, something horrible. And my ability may not be as strong as your ability to handle it. So I'm asking, I think that in the medical world, they'll also say that whatever we inherited, our mental stability may have something to do with how we handle it and if we can handle it.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's, I call that perpetuation of generational dysfunction, that it keeps rolling and rolling into a huge ball, and then all of a sudden something will happen and you can snap. You can snap in different ways. There could be depression. There could be, you could self-medicate. You can feel like there's, we've talked about a dark cloud, not feeling worthy, self-esteem low, not being able to focus, and over hypervigilance.
Yes.
When you're always aware and on guard if something's going to happen, or there's a loud noise or a trigger that just triggers this whole emotional response to your body.
All right, I'm going to give you...
That causes the damage.
Okay. I'm going to give you a personal example. And this happened in my childhood. I want to know, would you call this a post-traumatic stress syndrome or disorder? I was about 9 or 10, and my parents had left town. And they left my sister and I under the charge of our grandmother, whom we both loved very much, and she lived with us. And I was in one room playing the piano, practicing, and I heard a tremendous thud in the kitchen. I hesitated because I'd never heard that sound before. So I called my little sister over to where I was in the piano room and told her just to sit there. I was going to go check on Grandma in the kitchen. And when I arrived, Grandma had had a stroke. And her physical appearance had changed dramatically from who I knew her to be. And seeing her crumbled up on the floor with some of the dishes scattered and broken, I closed the kitchen door, went back to my sister, and told her we needed to hide. We hid underneath the piano bench. She didn't understand what was going on. Finally, I said to my sister, I need to go get help. Don't go into the kitchen. So I ran to the neighbors, told them what I had seen. And from that point on, I was never brought back into our house until much, much later. My parents had returned that same night, very, very late. But what I carried around inside of me was a fear. I mean, afraid to go to my own room until a few days later, my mother said, Carol, what are you doing? You're like my shadow. Everywhere I go, you're right behind me. What's going on? And when the funeral time came for my grandmother, I would not go up and take a look. I did not want to see her. I was afraid of what she would do to me. I had a tremendous guilt that I had somehow caused, been responsible for her death. I hadn't gotten to her in time. Oh. So as a 9-year-old, I carried this all through my life until finally one day in front of a class of students, we were talking about first exposures to death in an English classroom, and part of it came out of me. Later, when my first husband had gone through a really definite medical, it came back, and the rest of it came out of me. And I'm okay today.
Right.
But what you are saying, it needs to be addressed. What happens, when people who have this condition do not address it, do not seek help? What can happen to them?
It could kill you. It could drive you so crazy with fear and anxiety and panic that you could either take your own life, you could snap and hurt somebody else and you could go blind and just go into a different reality. I mean, there's very serious levels of this disorder. Now, you did have post-traumatic stress syndrome, and also because it probably manifested itself a little more in your life as you grow up with that fear you were holding with you since you were 9.
And until there's a person, apparently, who comes along, or a situation where they're willing to listen and help you understand. Now you're older. Maybe this discussion, and it was a doctor who was in our house that led me out of the rest of it. All right, what happened?
Which then, what did that do for you? Did that release your emotional response to that memory?
All fear left.
That's the ticket.
All fear left. And I felt for the first time something just lift out of my spirit and from my life that I was no longer going to have to deal with. But I had not sought a doctor out. I had not sought counseling. I had not sought medication. And I just figured I was strong enough to deal with this. But as a child, I wasn't.
Right.
What happened to you?
Oh, well, I know that, there's a lot of things that happened, but I am a veteran of 10 years in the military, and there are things that, events that have happened that actually perpetuated my level of PTSD at the time that I went in.
Okay.
So, and that's what happens to a lot of people. When kids go in there, they already have some sort of post-traumatic stress syndrome that they've been carrying around. And you put them in the military realm, and that just adds a gajillion times more stress, and put a war on top of that, the training. And some people, that's very traumatic for them.
Yes.
And they can't get that out of their head. And it's the conditioning and what we have to do to our troops to protect our country. So we work as a platoon, and those missions are accomplished to keep us safe.
Okay.
So, and it's a big responsibility. And the kids, I call them the kids, they're not, the men and women are coming back now in droves, and something must be done.
Okay, so what you're saying, if I hear you correctly, is that not all volunteers who go into the military are carrying with them a post-traumatic stress disorder. But some of them may be because of childhood traumas of various natures that have not been dealt with, have not been talked out, have not been professionally handled, or even within the family. So they carry that into a new environment of the military where the training is intense. And the commands, the hierarchy of positions, the authority.
The decisions you have to make.
That's right.
And caring for troops and troops of men.
Yes, carry a tremendous amount of responsibility, one for the other. And as you said, those missions are going to be carried out.
Correct.
Hopefully they are all going to be commissioned and met. But in the process, if during the commitment of that mission, something traumatic happens, as it often does, then that's adding the final straw, so to speak, onto the mental, the psychological, and the emotional makeup of a person.
Right. Now, the longer you're in that environment, we all are survivors. So we are going to develop habits and protective devices around us to protect that hurt little child, that hurt spirit inside, that something traumatic happened.
Yes.
Just because something bad happens to us doesn't make us bad people.
That's right.
Now that really, that comment right there really took a lot of pressure off. Because if something bad, or you see something happen, or you were involved with something that was bad, and it affected you, and you're dreaming about it, and the nightmares are coming up.
Yes.
That's another thing. And then with all this stress and anxiety, then your physical body starts shutting down. You just start getting diseases and cancer and strokes and heart attacks.
Well, something out of the ordinary is going on. And I know that our brains have an essential responsibility to secrete the chemicals and hormones that when stress attacks us, they can help level that stress out. And not all of our brains work in the same manner. Some brains over-secrete those chemicals and hormones. Some brains under-secrete. And that imbalance, either way, creates a disorder.
And it puts that own individual twist on if you've had that label.
Okay.
I call it a label because we can solve that.
So when we come back to the second half, Liz, I want to talk about some of the paths that you specifically took on your own to help rid yourself of this post-traumatic stress, and if you can be a little bit more explicit, exactly what it was that you had to get rid of. I know that our viewing audience out there, a lot of them listen to what we share because it rings true with them. So we'll be right back the second half. Don't go away.
Are you looking for a healthier lifestyle? A more nutritious diet? Do you care about quality? If your answer is yes, or if you are just curious, come into Villa Basque Deli and Cafe right here in Carson City, Nevada. Discover fine Portuguese extra virgin olive oils, vintage balsamic vinegars, and a wide assortment of international health teas provided by distributor Carpa Nevada LLC. In addition to these terrific items, Villa Basque is also the home of Pete's famous Basque chorizo, handmade on the premises from Pete's secret family recipe. Satisfy your culinary curiosities. Don't delay.
When a disaster strikes our region, will you be ready? Learn about sheltering in place. Since each emergency is different, make sure you plan for alternate routes away from your neighborhood. Plan meeting places and long-distance phone numbers if you are separated. Assemble food, water, medicines for at least 3 days, and a portable radio to stay informed. Remember, make a plan, assemble a kit, stay informed, be ready. For more information, contact your local emergency manager.
Celebrate your patriotic spirit this summer with the Carson Nugget $1 Million Red, White, and Blue Summer Giveaway. We are giving away scooters all summer, and the whole family can join in for outdoor barbecues. Come in today for your share of $1 million in cash, free play, and scooters.
Hi, I'm Stephen Lincoln with CarsonCityHomes.com, Carson City's original online real estate resource.
At CarsonCityHomes.com, you get effective and easy-to-use tools to help you select your next home today. With our easy-to-use website, you can search listings throughout Northern Nevada and narrow the results by selecting every facet, quirk, and quality you desire. Visit CarsonCityHomes.com.
Apex SCF provides cutting-edge, hands-on training that effectively addresses today's threats of violence.
The Apex Stay Alive course teaches proven methods for personal protection and attack countermeasures that can be applied in any environment. In your home, at the workplace, or on campus, Apex will teach you the necessary skills to stay alive, including how to recognize and react to an active shooter scenario.
If you knew you had to fight for your life tomorrow, would you train today? Contact us now to sign up for a class in your region.
A fire-adapted community is prepared to survive a wildfire with little or no firefighter assistance. To help prevent ignition by embers, remove dead and dying plants from around your home. Be sure to remove low-hanging branches and the flammable plants underneath your trees, also known as ladder fuels. Non-flammable plants and pathways create separation and help prevent fire from spreading to your home. Make it lean, clean, and green.
Visit livingwithfire.info for more tips to save your home.
Blast into summer with Carson Nugget's $1 Million Red, White, and Blue Summer Giveaway, where we are giving away scooters all summer long. And with daily free play giveaways, cash bash weekends, outdoor barbecues, and more. Come in today to heat up your summer.
Hi, welcome back to the second portion of Women to Women. Again, I'm Carol Paz, your hostess, and we're talking this evening with Liz Andrews Booth, who is in discussion with me on post-traumatic stress syndrome. And in the first half, we've kind of established between both Liz and myself that in this very chaotic world that we live in, with many wars and many returning veterans, we see the need for us to open up and talk about. But before we get back into that discussion with Liz, I just want to bring to your attention, in the mail that I received, I have 2 letters here tonight, one from Kathy in Reno, who says she really enjoys Women to Women because it brings a difference from the ongoing news of fires and tornadoes and hurricanes and all kinds of natural disasters, that we bring a relief in there. So that makes me very happy. And I want to say thank you to Kathy from Reno who wrote us. And I have a lady who corresponds off and on with me from Hawaii and also from here in Carson City. And she too appreciates the women guests who come on here, such as Jennifer Bailey a few weeks ago, who is fighting stage 4 breast cancer, and the naturalness of how Jennifer presents herself and did present herself on the show, that gives strength and encouragement to other women, because Jennifer is fighting this breast disease now for 11 years and going strong. So let's return. Liz, again, I say thank you, and I want to remind us that sometimes what we have experienced or what we have to say is of influence, of value to others out there. So when we left off with the first half, we're coming back to the question, how did others, or how did you recognize that the stress that you were carrying was over and above something that you could handle? Did others see it in you? Was the stress, after coming back after 10 years in the military into the United States, was that where you recognized that whatever you had experienced with the military was redefining, reshaping your life in a negative way?
My symptoms at the time was depression.
Okay.
And it was really hard to function, to get out of bed.
More than just a bad day.
More than just a bad day. A heaviness, anxiety going outside, because you got to put yourself out there. When you go out into the public, you got to put yourself out there. And then if you already have fear swirling around inside, you go out, and then you've got all these other external energy influences. And and you could just crawl back in the corner. And
So-
then I couldn't stop crying.
Okay.
I
Did you have
I had bad
nightmares, bad dreams?
couldn't sleep. And
All
then-
symptoms of post-traumatic stress.
Right. And I started seeing some therapists,
Okay.
and then, some through the VA, mainly, at the end of the VA, and
Right.
they gave me the label of post-traumatic stress syndrome.
And this is something that
And
you
they
saw
tied it all
on
up in
your
all a
own.
little bow, right. And it really did. The definition and the symptoms matched what I had. And actually, it wasn't like a really bad thing. It was kind of like, okay, well, this is something tangible that I can fix. This is something I can look into, I can study and figure out what is going on and how to relieve myself from all of this fear and anxiety.
So what did the Veterans Administration suggest or indicate that you should take?
Pills.
Okay, to medicate.
To medicate, to slow your brain down, and which is a standard practice in any, whether it be civilian or the
Military.
veterans or the military, because
Okay.
in some instances it is normal because the brain chemistry has gone out of whack. You need
Yes.
help stabilizing so you can get to that point where you can identify.
So did the
and
medication
release.
work?
Not for me.
Okay, what did it do to you?
I felt it made me crazier.
Okay, so there was more anxiety buildup,
Yeah.
more stress.
Right, and then you couldn't function. And
Did you ever take more medication thinking, I self-medicate, I need more?
No, I wouldn't take it.
Okay, so you just didn't take it.
I couldn't take it, so that wasn't doing me any good either.
So what did you do?
I started studying if you want to call it a disease, because it is dis-ease.
Yes.
I started identifying symptoms and characteristics that I was experiencing,
Okay.
and through my investigation of this, healing techniques because talk therapy is great, but I did talk therapy, so I looked into more energy healing techniques.
Okay, now let me just stop you for a second. When you did talk therapy, okay, did that include a psychiatrist? Did it include?
Yes, from therapist, psychiatrist, counselor.
So your psychiatrist was your MD?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Rather than a psychologist?
Well, you have both.
Okay, you have
get
both,
one,
all right.
yeah.
And did you feel a release in the talk therapy that was helping for a while? Did it release some of those negative emotions?
Well, it'd bring it all up,
Right.
and they could see my symptoms, which made them want to give me more pills.
Okay, so you backed off again.
Right,
For
and
more
I backed off
medication.
of that, yeah.
Where did you turn to? Who did you turn to? What did you turn to?
Inward. I started looking at, because it wasn't just the military that did it, it was more, I consider myself a healer, so I had to find new and different techniques to do that.
Okay.
And my studies brought me to where I am today, and that's when I founded Esperanza Foundation.
Say that again, the Esperanza?
The Esperanza Foundation,
Esperanza,
it's
okay.
Spanish for hope.
Okay.
Because there is hope.
Yes.
Because I didn't think there was any hope. And then once I found this little kernel of hope inside, and that actually numbed out some of the fear.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a little bit of hope that there could be something different, that you could feel this way and have joy in your life, not being scared, not having the nightmares, not having the tinnitus, not having the migraines, not having any of those symptoms, that you could live a life full of joy and health.
And I think you've hit on something very important there, too, that a part of those symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder is that true sense. There is no tomorrow. There's no hope at all. It is
Right.
completely void of hope.
That's where you can get, but
And you can become so numb in your emotions that you're
And-
you're not
you
reacting.
don't choose to do this lifetime anymore.
Yes.
But this lifetime is there to be enjoyed, and there is hope. There is ways, and I will have created an immersion healing center, which that'll be the focus, is the post-traumatic stress syndrome.
And it
How to
brings
identify,
together-
objectify, and release
Okay.
these fears and anxieties and forgive them and which brings, it gets all that bad out, all that bad anxiety and fear, and transmutes it into joy and into hope. And just exposing different tools on how to use them, and how it grounds you so you can have that great idea and have that room in your brain to think about how you can accomplish your idea.
Okay, and I think
for anything in anybody's life.
There's a truth here in what you're expressing, that the change is going to have to come from within.
Right, you have to want it.
Because the outside is continually pressing in on you. It can be the world, it can be just a few people, it can be conditions, situations. So we're going to have to find an inner peace, an inner balance that the outside is not going to deal with us on. Okay, now that's very important. So continue. Esperanza, which is the Spanish word for hope, is an organization that you have identified and formed. Okay?
Yes.
And
501c3.
okay, so it's a nonprofit.
Nonprofit.
And how long has this been in existence?
Actually, as of yesterday, 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
2 years, and we've done 3 festivals so far. Festival of Earthly Treasures, Healing Arts and Gems and Rocks and Jewels, and worked with all kinds of different entities, and I'm developing the program right now for the retreat, so I'm gathering all of the resources so to put them in a spot.
Okay, so if a person, let's say another woman, were interested in learning more about a retreat, would you have information where she can either call or contact?
That would be me.
That would be you. Okay, Liz
me.
Andrews Booth, all right. And we will put up, of course, in the program your website and a contact number. So, Liz, I know that in your working before with me on various projects, that you know I'm a true believer. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. But I would agree with you that it's the inside of us that needs to be changed, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and probably physiologically, okay, neurologically, so many different ways. And I depend upon Christ to do that within me. But I can also appreciate what you're saying, is that we're on journeys. Right. We're on different walks.
Right.
And if you are bringing through Esperanza hope and a future and a sense of joy, a sense of reattachment, okay, to what really counts in life, which is their relationships, a sense of worthiness, a sense of the gifts that you were endowed with to be able to use them, then that's such an important step on that journey. And where are you now? And just a brief statement, where are you now compared to where you were 15 years ago? Or maybe it's much sooner than that.
So blessed. I'm in such a blessed place in my life. I feel that with through my journey, I did heal myself of all of the labels that were put on me throughout the years, and with these healing techniques, and that's all just in forgiveness. And you know, and if they want more information, you can see my website. Won't go into them right now, but
okay.
But there's festivals, there's all kinds of stuff to raise this awareness.
Okay.
That there is hope. And I know I healed myself, and I'm so happy. And I'm just such a happy
You
place.
are, and I've worked around you long enough to realize that. So I want to say thank you so much for being with us tonight.
My pleasure.
And I also want to thank our last 2 sponsors for the second half of the program, which is carsonnow.org, that go-to place here in Carson City for whatever is breaking. It's the latest news possible. And to also say thank you to the Nevada Appeal and the Record Courier for their constant support in helping us to realize that we need to support our local businesses right here in the Carson area, Northern Nevada area. So watch for their coupons also and their special booklets on their Sunday editions. And until we meet next week, I hope you have a wonderful evening. I hope that we have given you something to really think about. So we thank you for joining us. Have a good evening. Good night.